Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. Well, it's that time again where we delve into the realm of potential. Yes, time for more monthly colour readings. I hope you've been enjoying the ones that I have been presenting so far, and I'd be very curious to find out just how it is that you managed with the colour changes that you may have chosen for yourself. I, this month, had the colours blue and yellow, and I certainly had some surprises, which is what those colours tend to suggest. The most surprising thing, of course, was that even though I am a lucid dreamer, and still dreamt throughout the entire month, I couldn't remember any of them, which is really quite interesting because yellow is a colour of remembering things. So obviously it was an issue that I needed to deal with. But before we get started today, I'd really like to welcome those of you who are new subscribers to this channel. It's always pleasant to find that there are people who are starting to find an interest in the sorts of things that I talk about. Maybe it's not so much these monthly readings, maybe it's more to do with the films that I analyse, but whatever it is, if I can explore with you the world of colour as I see it, then maybe you too will find an interest in something that you didn't know that you were interested in. For those of you who are regular viewers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for attending, and really, I think it's time that you might like to make some comments. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what's happening to you. Let me know how these readings resonate for you. And that way I can be guided into giving more informed opinions of the colours as they turn out. If you're new here, then of course you are also very, very welcome. And I hope you find something here that is of benefit to you. All right, well, this month I've decided to take the oracle called The Treasures of Tikashi. Now, I don't have a box for these anymore. These have been with me for almost as long as my tarot cards and much, much longer than my colour cards. So the box is long gone, but it has some very wonderful messages for people. And I hope that the message that comes out for you resonates with what you are experiencing in your life in the here and now. All right then, well, let's get started. Let's now choose a treasure from Tikashi for people born in the month of December, looking at how their October 2025 will travel. And we'll use this card as an adjunct to the colour reading. All right. Just pop it under there for the time being. And now I need a colour reading for people born in the month of December to examine what will transpire for them in October 2025. Very well. You come into the month with brown on purple. The majority of the month is white on black. And you leave the month with black on brown. And the underlying energy is pink on orange. Well, the first thing we notice is that there are two colours that are repeated. We have brown as the incoming energy, as the actual things that you're doing, and it is also appearing here as the underlying need or drive that comes with the energy of what you are taking out of the month with you. We also have black as the internal need or drive in the middle of the month, and it becomes the action with which you leave the month. That's a fairly common sort of thing, that we have a colour repeated within a reading, that you've got two Just means you need to take a little more attention towards what they represent. So let's have a look at the underlying energy firstly. Inside here, we have pink on orange. Orange is a need for confidence, a need to stand up, a need to fight whatever it is that is threatening your well-being. Orange requires you to find, well, actually to dig fairly deeply and find whatever it is that it takes for you to be able to survive whatever it is that is happening in the real world. And in the real world for you, the underlying energy throughout the month of October is that you're feeling lackluster in terms of energy. Pink is always an absence of energy. It's an inability to do for yourself. It requires you to accept assistance from others. It requires you to be loved. But the internal requirement is not for love from others. It is for you to be able to create that love for yourself. And you can do that by learning to, in an old biblical saying, love your enemy. It's a bit of a challenge, really, because orange internally means that you are being challenged on a very emotional level. Orange is always a very highly emotive color, and for that reason, it's not very much liked by many people, because it does require you to take charge of your own emotions. And as an internal driver here, that's exactly what you're being asked to do. In the external world, however, by showing that love to others, you are in fact empowering yourself to learn to accept who you are and what you are and not fight it anymore. Into the month, we have brown on purple. Now, purple is also a color of a crisis situation. Purple internally is a need for things to change, for dramatic change, but it's a dramatic change requirement because something is unhealthy in your environment, or you're not feeling very healthy and wealthy and wise. Purple internally requires you to heal something about yourself or your environment or your relationships. And in the real world, what you have been doing and what you will be doing as you enter into October is learning new skills. There are things out there that you want to overcome. There are things that you need to learn. There are skills you need to acquire because you have certain ambitions. And if you're going to make anything out of this energy that is requiring you to create change, then in the real world, you probably need to find just how to go about doing just that. And together, those two are a driver that causes you to continually be upsetting things. Purple is childlike energy. Children fight 1 minute and they're best friends the next. And this energy, this drive internally for this childlike having to change, to destroy and then recreate things, in the real world comes across as having to learn different sorts of skills and possibly not doing them as successfully as you might like, because it feeds back into this having to destroy and recreate. By the middle of the month, things will have sorted themselves out into black and white. It's fairly obvious that some things are capabilities you have, and other things are things you're never going to be able to achieve. Black internally is a need to withdraw, need to take time out to consolidate, to think about what it is that you have been doing back here, what it is that has been driving you from down here, and get in touch with your inner self and give yourself the time, the space to be able to come up with some more creative ideas. Black is withdrawal for a purpose. White in the real world, however, is having to face reality. And here, this combination often means that you're withdrawing because you have been forced into facing a harsh reality. Perhaps you found that some of the ambitions that you had here, some of the destructive forces that were at play inside you, have now created some sort of massive enlightenment event where you are faced with something that is so overwhelming, it's like a slap in the face. And you need to be able to deal with it. So how do we deal with that? Well, we become quiet for a while. We become withdrawn. We give ourselves the time and the space to deal with this flash of enlightenment before we move on. And where do we move to? Well, here we have black over brown. And that's interesting because the brown comes here as a skill to be learned. Here it is a need for learning, for recreating ambitions, for setting your sights on something more solid, more sustainable, more long-term. And in the real world, how do you do that? Well, you withdraw and you accumulate information. Black is the ultimate absorber. It takes knowledge and experience from everywhere. White scatters it in all directions because it can't hold on to anything. Black holds onto everything. And so everything that you have learnt in the past by the end of October will now have caused you to feel almost overwhelmed with the amount of information and experience that you have been through. And how do you now consolidate that into some sort of goal, some ambition that enables you to move? Because black is static. It doesn't allow for movement. People hide in blackness. Brown, on the other hand, says, I have ambitions. So are these hidden ambitions? That's basically what this color combination means. I'm hiding my ambitions. How does the underlying energy impinge upon this? Well, if we look at the brown, this ambition, over orange, which is the need to stand up and show that you are confident and able to survive, then what we have here is a drive for testing your limits by doing things that you haven't done before. At the same time, we have pink over purple. Purple is that destruction creation urge, and in the real world, it's pink. That is, I haven't got the energy to do this. So here we have childlike energy coupled with baby-like energy. And together those two force you into a situation where things are changing because you are making them change, but in the real world, you're not able to deal with them anyway. And that causes a lot of conflict. By the middle of the month, we have white over orange, and that is that this need to stand up and show that you survive anything actually puts you in a situation where anything is happening and you are expected to survive something that is entirely novel to you. You have no idea how to do this because you've never experienced it before. At the same time, we have pink over black. You've withdrawn internally, you need the time out. And in the real world, you are putting on a face of, please, I need assistance. So together, this suddenly being faced with something that is totally unknowable to you and causes you to have to deal with it in the here and now, because if you don't, you won't survive. At the same time, also allows you to ask for help because there is an internal awareness of your lack of knowledge and experience up here. When we look at what's happening in the future, this hiding of your skills, hiding of your ambitions, we have the black, but this time it's over orange. So unlike the white on orange here, where you need to survive something that is totally unknown, now you have the knowledge, you have the awareness of what that darkness means for you, and you are driving yourself towards being able to survive it. At the same time, you also have the pink over brown, and that is whatever ambitions are driving you forward, again, you have the ability in the real world to ask for assistance. You are now able to go out and find those people who are able to teach you to help you with whatever it is that you need to do here. So it's an interesting conversation that you'll be having with yourself, because a lot of this black that you have here is conversations with your inner self. What do you really want out of life? What do you want to attain in October? And how well are you going to be able to make your ambitions into reality? Let's have a look at what colours are missing to see where we go from here. All right, you have black, you have white. There's no red, there's no yellow, there's no green or blue, but you do have brown, you have orange, you don't have grey, but you do have purple, and you have pink, but there is no cyan. So in effect, you have here 6 colours representing a variety of different skills that will enable you to confidently traverse through the month of October, because you are going to be looking for and potentially receiving the sort of assistance that's necessary in order for you to be able to do that confident travel through the month. What's missing are these colours here. What we have here is red, which is all about being your own boss. Yellow, which has to do with learning new skills. Green is the acceptance and the chasing of opportunities. Blue is understanding and organizing your life so that it has meaning. Grey is about overcoming confusion and uncertainty and finding that things aren't necessarily all black and white like you normally would think of it. We certainly have a lot of black and white here in the middle of the month. You don't necessarily have to have your world divided up into those colours. And finally, cyan, which is all about finding your bliss, finding what makes you happy and contented, and being able to overcome stagnation. So which of these colours is most appealing and which is least appealing to you? If you take those colours and you put them into your month, you'll find that you've actually added to this repertoire here. And in doing so, by the time you get to the end, by the time you get to this stage where you have this overwhelming need to hide what it is that you really want out of life, you might also have found that you've consolidated those ideas. And while it may be a secret here, you've also got a few extra skills under your belt to help you along. Let's have a look at what Tikashi has to offer on the subject. All right. What we have here is creativity. You are the creator of your universe. You can create, manifest anything. Do not limit what you think you can do. You can do anything. Without judgments, you can lovingly acknowledge that you create, and that will open the flow of greater creations. Be open to new ideas. Let your artistic expression flow. Allow your inspiration to guide you to new heights. Interesting, because what we have here is inspiration. And what we have here is knowledge, and what we have here is creativity. So allow yourself to take on the challenge that you've set way back here that is going to underpin your entire month. Well, that was certainly an interesting reading. I hope it resonates with you throughout the month. And if it doesn't, come back in a week or so and see what it has to say then. Because quite often we don't recognize all these general readings for ourselves immediately. It's only once we've gone through a few stages that we start to realize that, maybe that was what it was all about. Anyway, until next time, may the colours of your life bring you joy and happiness and all the things that you desire. Until I see you again, bye.